Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Having a nice day today, weather-wise, that's for sure. We're looking at 77 degrees now, high of 83. That's really nice. Tomorrow, pretty much identical, sunny. Sunday it creeps up to 86, and then Monday we're going to hit 98. Tuesday back down to 89, then 86, then 84, then 86, 86. This is pretty much seasonal for this month. It's about May weather, it's about right. Okay, please don't post in the chat until I get a chance to put my posts up, which takes, I don't know, 2 minutes or something. I've got to check for sound and picture first, which I'm doing now. And it looks like it's in place, but I'm not sure. No, it's not yet up. Let me wait. There it is. Okay, I got sound and picture, so please don't post in the chat till I get my posts up. Thank you. Just give me another minute or two. Okay, you can post if you want. Okay, we got some people coming in. Probably get a pretty high turnout today. So what I'm going to do today is go through many different things going on in the world objectively, which is called intel by a lot of people. But this is open source intel, all of it. And I'm going to tie it to Bible prophecy, and you're going to see what's going on. Being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to start by doing some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So this is going to be like combining Bible prophecy with the current events. Okay. Now, most of you know the daughter of Babylon is America. Some of you don't. I have a lot of Bible studies on my YouTube. They're mostly, almost all of them are listed under the live section. And you can go through, like, verse by verse, why America is the daughter of Babylon. And I'm not going to go through that here because it's going to take a lot of time, but there's many millions of people that are aware of it. The fact that it's not preached by many other millions of people doesn't make a difference. Okay. Now, one of the things you guys need to be aware of is that a lot of people, the rabbis and other people that don't really understand the scriptures that well, are using the scriptures for the blessings of Israel and just applying it to Israel today, carte blanche. And that's wrong, because number one, Israel's not observing the law. There's no temple, there's no active priesthood. I gotta clean my glasses a little bit. There's nothing, okay? That's number one. The unsaved are not under the age of grace because they're in Yeshua, as they say, covered by the blood. That's not applying to them, okay? They're denying Yeshua. Okay. His name is not Jesus. There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. So Jehovah can't be his name. It's Yehovah. Yahweh is a silly thing because all the Hebrew names mean something, and Yahweh has no meaning. So it's 100% not Yahweh. It's Jehovah, and it's Yeshua, which is the root of salvation. That's what that word means. And it does appear in the Bible, in the Old Testament, as Yeshua. Generally translated as salvation. Okay. Moving forward. So the people here are behaving very incorrectly. They're suing each other, they're mad at each other, the government's corrupt, they love the corrupt government, they get the good jobs, they don't have to go to college, and I could keep going. And, you know, they got those, you know, what kind of parades through Jerusalem and Tel Aviv every year. You think Jehovah likes that? Okay? They're very tolerant of false god worship in the land of Israel. They allow the idols, artifacts, you know, buildings and stuff dedicated to these false gods to go up and stay up. They're protective of the rights of these people, yet they bear down pretty hard on Messianics. So Jehovah is not happy with these people and their behavior. Remember that. So you have to remember how Jehovah gives these promises. They're not unconditional. You can do adultery, abortion, murder, drugs, I mean, whatever you want, and I'm still going to apply the promises to you. There's no evidence of this ever happening in biblical history, and it's not about to start. So they use these scriptures, you know, I will curse those who curse you and bless those who bless you. Well, he doesn't apply that to people that worship false gods. Now, the number of Satan bots of people serving the unclean spirits in Israel is, when I was first there in the 1990s, it was very low. Now it's massive. They're all over the place. Okay? They've come up with a story that Moses gave the written law to the heathen, and the real law was what they call the oral law. We don't read that in the Bible anyway. And they took the oral law and incorporated it into a writing of, I don't know, 10 or 12 books called the Talmud. And they consider that overriding the Torah and the prophets, pretty much. And in the Talmud, it says that Yeshua was a witch, he was a bastard, he wasn't the Son of God, he never rose from the dead on down the line. Okay? So let's not be too quick to start applying the blessings of Israel on people that are in gross disobedience to the Lord. Let's leave out the temple stuff and the altar and the sacrifices and the priesthood. Let's just focus on how they behave towards their fellow countrymen, and that's pretty pathetic. I lived here many years. They're horrible. The companies are dishonest. The government doesn't prosecute them or force them to be honest. They allow monopolies. The prices of everything are insane here. $3 tax per gallon of gasoline. That brings us to about $8, $9 a gallon. Cars are taxed 150%. So a $30,000 car in America is $60,000 here. An expensive car that's $100,000 in America is $250,000 here. We were just very fortunate to buy a used car. We got I think it's a 10-year-old car. And it has very low mileage and was very well taken care of. We paid probably 4 times what it would be worth in America, you know? So rents are high, the landlords make you do the repairs to the property, the government doesn't enforce the laws, the courts favor the landlords make you pay the property tax on their property plus the repairs. It's a very difficult situation, and this is designed to stop Aliyah. The government is opposed to Aliyah. That means Jewish people returning to their homeland. They don't want it, and the people don't want it, because a lot of them that come here from like America, Canada, France, Great Britain, Australia, or New Zealand, or other countries have educations, and they don't want to lose their jobs to these skilled people. I could go on and on. That's not what this video is about, but believe me, to understand it, you're going to have to understand that there is going to be a sifting here, and that is depicted in Zechariah chapter 13 verses 8 and 9. And I want to read that to you because that's going to happen very, very, very shortly, in the next few weeks, possibly 2 months or so, not much longer than that, okay? And I'll read it to you. And the people are not aware of this, and the rabbis teach them it applies to the world at large, not Israel, and that's not the case at all. It's 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, that's called Haaretz, all the land of Israel, saith. Now, at times, the word Eretz, or Haaretz for the land, can mean the earth, okay? This is just one of the things about Hebrew. But you have to look at context. It's referencing Israel here. Saith Jehovah, 2 parts, or 2/3, therein shall be cut off and die. That means dead. But the third, that's the 1/3, shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine. Now remember, God tells us in the Word, His fire, His furnace is in Jerusalem. Okay. And will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Now, He's not going to call people that say Yeshua was a bastard, a false prophet, a witch, not the Son of God, never rose from the dead, and so forth. He's not going to call them His people when they're in grievous opposition regarding Him and His firstborn son, Yeshua the Messiah. Okay, let's get that down. Okay? Because you're not going to understand what's going on until you get that down. Okay? And you got to understand the daughter of Babylon is America. It says she's on many waters. Okay? And the other alternatives for America is the Vatican. What many waters is the Vatican on? Nothing. It says the Israelites shall come out of America and go to Israel. How many Israelites live in the Vatican? Well, there's 200 to 300 people that live in the Vatican. That's it. And there's no many waters. There's no mixed multitude of people like it says for the daughter of Babylon. And there's no Jews there. So how does that work? It doesn't. Then they talk about Mecca and Medina being it. Well, that doesn't work either. They don't have many waters. They don't have many Jews there. I mean, come on. It's absurd. Okay? It's sheer absurdity. All right? Now, it says the daughter of Babylon is the hammer of the whole earth. Well, as you'll see when I discuss troop deployments America has around the world, and you know this, they are the hammer of the whole earth, and they're the great voice. So you have to have those precepts to really understand what's going to go on, okay? Now comes the birth of the nation in a day. Now, that's not 1948, May 15th. When a believer becomes born again, they become a new creature in Christ Jesus, it says in the Bible, or Yeshua HaMashiach, in the real words. Right? Okay. Did that happen May 15th, 1948? Of course not. Does it happen in Zechariah 12, where they lay siege to Israel? Yes, it does. Do they mourn for Yeshua, for where they treated him and everything? Yes, all the families of Israel. Does he pour his spirit out on all the house of David and those living in Jerusalem? Yes, he does. Is that the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds? Yes, it is. Is that the same as the second coming? No. We covered that this past week in pretty deep depths. Okay? We're not going to be doing any corrections in Bible prophecy today. We're going to be basically explaining the current events in the world and tying it to Bible prophecy. Okay? So I made some notes this morning in my Telegram, and I didn't know I was going to be doing this today. I don't know what I'm going to cover till I get up in the morning, go outside, and start seeing where the Lord leads me. So I want to make sure I don't miss anything, so I'm going back to my notes. So if you want to join my Telegram, it's free, the app's free, everything's free. Download the app, which is called Telegram Messenger. There's over 700 million people in there. It's encrypted, and it's the only place where there's really no censorship. Most of the stuff I put up is text, and sometimes I put up audio files. I put links to different news stories and articles and videos in there. And if you want a real blow-by-blow depiction of what's going on here in Israel, that's where I suggest you go. You just email me and I'll send you the invite link, but you got to download the app. There's so much going on. I'm scrolling down to get to the beginning of it. The Iranians came out with a preliminary official report on the helicopter crash and said that they don't expect it was foul play. Well, that's just them saving face. Like when we attacked them after their big missile attack on us, and we hit 2 military sites and 5 nuclear facilities, where all we did at the nuclear facilities was take out their radar by destroying it. And that kind of ground-based radar takes a long time, months and months to rebuild. So that left their nuclear facilities, 5 of them, undefended. They have no air force that has a hope of shooting our planes or missiles down. And they have no hope of launching anti-missile missiles without their radar. Plus, they wouldn't detect us until we were right there. Some of the other radars they have that we didn't take out would detect us as we got close to Iran. And they can't take out our F-35s. So they didn't know what to do. It obviously was not an accident. And they are not going to retaliate against us in America because they don't know what to do. And it doesn't fit in with the plans that I'm going to reveal to you. Now, let me get into this a little bit. Let's start with troop counts. I did some research on this, and America is not in the habit of telling you exactly how many troops are stationed overseas in what country and so forth, but we got a pretty good picture, so here we go. America now has 350,000 troops in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, that would mean South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Guam, some Philippines, probably some Australia, maybe New Zealand. And there's a number of American warships there, but it's not a very, very high number. There's usually one real serious aircraft carrier there that can carry 80, 90 jets, and then they have another, like a smaller aircraft carrier that carries helicopters and vertical takeoff jets, not very many, and can hold 1,500 Expeditionary Force Marines and some tanks and armor and artillery and all this. And then they have destroyers, missile cruisers, and they don't talk about submarines, but they probably have one or two over there. So I would think they probably have maybe 6, 8, 9 maximum ships floating around that area. Not much. Okay? Not much. So yesterday, China encircled Taiwan with an unprecedented number of warships. That's laying siege to Taiwan. It surrounded it, and they could stop everything from going in and going out. And they flew a huge amount of planes over the Taiwan airspace against, they violated Taiwan airspace. They did not attack. Now, this is to unsettle America and to keep America putting assets out there. They don't have enough assets to really stop China. Now, if China invades Taiwan, Japan's going to get into the fight against China. But while Japan has some military might for sure, let's not kid ourselves, and they have a history of being very good fighters, they can't handle China without America. And China will swat them down. Will China take losses? You bet. Will they be serious? No. North Korea will hit South Korea and make mincemeat out of it. Okay? China probably won't have to help North Korea do that. They've been practicing and training to do that for many years. The Philippines is not a big deal. America probably has maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 soldiers there or something like that. It's not a big deal one way or the other. Australia would probably be on the back burner for China, but there's a fear that Australia would send several warships. They don't have much, maybe 2, 3, to support America against China. Now remember, America has a very small amount of American military in Taiwan, probably as advisors, intel, equipment operators, and things like that. They don't have much, okay? Taiwan can't make it alone. So what they've been doing, and these countries are working the snare on America, and you're going to say, what snare is that? Well, I'll read it to you from Jeremiah 50, verse 24. And the snare is from Jehovah, but it's being executed, as I'll show you. The word that Jehovah spake against Babel, that's America, and against the land of the Chaldeans, again America, by Jeremiah the prophet. Now that's the beginning of the passage, so it's the word of the Lord, and it has to come true. And then we drop into verse 24, which reads like this: I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon in English, and thou wast not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord, against Jehovah. Jehovah hath brought forth his armor, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, his anger. For this is the work of Adonai Jehovah of armies in the land of the Chaldeans. Okay? So it says he laid a snare for the daughter of Babylon, America, when she got caught in it. And we need to develop what the snare is. North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia are the main players in the snare. The top tier is China and Russia. The next tier down, the lesser tier, is North Korea and Iran. But they're not exactly disposable assets, okay? They want them intact. And you got to remember, since the president of Iran and the other guys in his helicopter got killed, the threat of civil war in Iran has soared. So China and Russia are a little bit concerned, not extremely, but concerned about a civil war in Iran and them losing that asset. Iran has a massive inventory in weapons. They could provide a rather large army and stuff like that. So they don't want to see Iran go down. Okay? So after Iran and North Korea dropping down to another lower level, you have satellites like Belarus for Russia, and you have the Houthis in Yemen, the Hamas in Gaza, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and you have various militia groups loyal to Iran and funded and supplied with weapons by Iran that are running around in Iraq and Syria. These Muslim terrorist operations are basically disposable assets. They're there to work the snare against America. Okay? Now, Biden has been somewhat resistant to this snare. There was a massive attempt to draw America into the war in Israel, in the Middle East, specifically to invade Lebanon on behalf of Israel, which they never did, and to invade Yemen on behalf of the whole world in the Red Sea ship attacks, and they never did that. Iran pelted Israel with 330 rockets and drones and missiles, in addition to another 170 or so coming out at the same time from Hezbollah, and to a very small extent Gaza. So almost nothing came out of Gaza, a handful. So, and it was a couple and maybe a handful coming out from Syria and Iraq. And that was a hope that America would do something against Iran, perhaps not attack it, but bring a large military force in the Persian Gulf to be a perpetual threat to Iran and get them to pipe down. Nothing. America did not take that bait. So America is rather afraid to go into Yemen. It would take a few 100,000 soldiers because they're in tunnels and underground bunkers. And America's not going to do that. Okay? All right. So Biden he just did a speech, I think, yesterday where he was talking and he called Kamala Harris the president. To say Biden's running the country is, at this point in time, rather foolish. To say Biden's staff is running the country is rather accurate. And that would be Blinken, Secretary of State, Jake Sullivan, the security guy, Austin, Department of Defense, and a few others. All of the three I named worked for Obama when he was president. 75%, 3/4, of the Biden staff worked for Obama during at least one of his presidencies. So people are saying that Obama is basically running the White House, certainly not Biden. It looks like that could be true. I don't know for a fact, but it looks that way. Okay? And that would explain the pro-Palestinian stance that Biden has taken. He's the best friend Hamas has right now. Best friend. Now, we had a new development. As I said, this was going to happen. They built that pier, and Netanyahu didn't care about it, or he didn't publicly say anything, nor did any member of the government, which made me very, very suspicious. Because there's no real reason for that pier to be there to bring humanitarian aid in. I'll quickly explain. The aid comes in sufficiently on trucks, like from Egypt, okay? And then it's deployed around Gaza to distribute it. And the Gazan citizens hijack the trucks when they can. Do they need it because they're starving to death? No, not one of them ever even came close to starving to death. They've got an abundance of the stuff. Their open air markets are loaded with it. They're selling their produce as of yesterday at prices lower by a lot than what we have to pay in Israel. They're selling the humanitarian aid to other Gazans. And Hamas hijacks the loads, and they store it, and they sell it also. And the UNWRA was stockpiling this humanitarian aid, and Hamas ripped it off, and nobody said anything about it. So I was very suspicious that this pier went in. As soon as the pier goes in, then America says we're going to have 1,000 soldiers there. Well, they have anti-missile systems there, they have armored vehicles there, not so much tanks, but I think Humvees and personnel carriers. And very recently, last 2 days, 3 American soldiers were combat wounded down at that pier. One is in critical condition in an Israeli hospital, and 2 were treated for combat injuries and then released. Nobody is releasing the specific details of what happened to them, but we do know that Hamas has been aggressively attacking the pier. Mortars, missiles, and so forth. So what's going to happen? Well, why is Hamas mad about this? All right. America doesn't want Israel to win the war. They want to keep Hamas there so they can kill Israel another day. So the pier is a way for America and other countries like the UK, France, whoever else wants to join in, send troops into Gaza without passing through Israel. And the troops will impose a forced ceasefire on Israel and Hamas. Now, that'll take the form of American troops patrolling Gaza, making sure no missiles and rockets get out. And if they do get out, will America fire on the launching sites of these missiles, even if they were firing at Israel or American troops? No, they would not. They would follow Biden's typical do-nothing plan, okay? Or next to nothing. He's not going to go bomb Hamas. Could you imagine that on Fox and CNN? Biden bombing Hamas, genocide, Come on, he's not going to do anything. Hamas knows that. If Biden sets up shop with a few of his close allies, UK, France, and maybe some other countries, and forces a ceasefire, Hamas stays in Gaza, America will have the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, run Gaza. And Mahmoud Abbas runs the Slave for Pay program in the West Bank, where any terrorist goes out and attempts to kill an Israeli or do an act of terrorism, and they get killed. He, Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian Authority, supports the family of the terrorists for as long as they live. This is about $3,100 a month. That'd be like having a support level with welfare in America of $10,000 or $12,000 a month. Things are cheap in Gaza. What is it going to cost you to rent a house? $30, $50 a month. Okay. So this means that Hamas can't do anything, theoretically. They're just there. And the Palestinian Authority guy who runs the Slave for Pay program, now if they attack an Israeli or do an act of terrorism that doesn't cause them to get killed, they're not martyred, they go to jail, then he pays that money to the families of the terrorist that's in jail for as long as he's in jail. America, the European Union, the UNWRA all give the Palestinian Authority millions and millions and millions of dollars every year. They never tell them that it's just crazy. They don't tell them you have to stop murdering the Jews and supporting the people who do, or we can't give you money. No, the EU, all the nations give him the money knowing he's doing the Slave for Pay program. That's because Satan's the head of this world. He's the god of this world still today, but not much longer. And all the leaders of all the nations are serving him. And the biggest threat to Satan right now is Israel, because God will run the nations of the world through Israel, and he will have no more power. So he doesn't want that. So he's using his nations to get rid of Israel. Now, in my opinion, he would be happy if we went back to a two-state solution with the pre-67 borders, and East Jerusalem, which is the site where the temple would go, reverts back to exclusive control of the Muslims. So that ends any chance of there being a temple dedicated to Jehovah in that territory. He would calm down there because he'd feel comfortable. But it's not the way it's going to work. So Hamas doesn't want to see the political head of Gaza, Palestinian Authority. They don't get along. He will probably kill them. as best he can, and America will not be able to stop it or do much of anything about it. America would also supervise the rebuilding of Gaza and the raising of billions of dollars to do so. It's a safe bet that at least 80% of their homes, businesses, official buildings, apartments are destroyed in part or in whole. Not livable. So they're intense. We did manage to evacuate 1 million so far out of Rafah from a high of 1.5 million, but it might have only been 1.2 million. So there may not be that many left there, but there are quite a few. And that was Biden pushing us. Biden got us to slow down the attack on Rafah and walk gently. And many of us soldiers are now getting killed and wounded in Gaza. And many of the high-ranking officers, about 2 or 3 days ago, signed a protest letter to the generals and the defense minister that they really don't like this, because this slowdown of attacking Rafah to make Biden happy is increasing the casualty rate in Gaza quite high. So nobody's doing anything about the hostages, yet they are listening to Biden and causing the deaths of way too many Israeli soldiers. People are not happy. With the hostages, we do not know how many hostages there are that are alive. We have no idea. It could be 10, it could be 3, it could be 15. We don't know. So we're throwing the lives of Israeli soldiers away and causing many to get wounded. For what reason? To make Biden happy. This is stupid. So the fear would be, and is, that America does a forced ceasefire, Hamas loses control, and America tries to come out of this showing the whole world how great they are. Now, if it works with Gaza, and you know, how many soldiers would they really need to put there? Not many. Maybe America would cough up 5,000 at most, maybe 3,000. UK probably 1,000. France probably 1,000. Some other countries, and they would get it up to 8,000 or 10,000 troops. But they have armor, they have reconnaissance flights, they got sophistication. You know, no match for what Hamas has. Okay. And that should work. And then Israel will be afraid to attack Gaza when they launch rockets at us. They will periodically get a few rockets off here and there. They will periodically get incendiary balloons off here and there. The American and the other foreign forces in Gaza will do nothing about that except yell and scream and try to find them and blow up the missiles and the missile launchers. That they will do. Okay? All right. If it works there, it's going to work in Lebanon. So then France would chip in a bunch of soldiers with America and the UK and 2, 3, 4 other countries, would raise a similar sized force, you know, maybe 8,000 to 10,000, and put them in Lebanon by the border with Israel, and shove Hezbollah back to the Litani River, which is 17 to 18 miles northward of the border with Israel. Now, that sounds easy, but it may or may not work. So that might not work with, because Hezbollah is not utterly already busted up like Hamas, so it may require 25,000 soldiers. Not a lot, and it would probably require a bunch of tanks, armored personnel carriers, probably armored vehicles. You'd probably have to have around 70, 80. Then you'd need to have at their disposal 20 or 30 helicopters at all times, and probably 25 fighter jets. So an aircraft carrier with Expeditionary Force Marines off the coast of Lebanon would help a lot. They may not even need a real aircraft carrier. So now they force a ceasefire on Lebanon, shove them back to the Litani River, and Israel goes back on our side of the border, and Biden looks like a hero. This is Biden's plan. It's not what's going to happen. All right, let me look at the chat for a minute. We're going to continue deeper into this. I want to see if I'm getting questions. And we're going to shift our emphasis more over to America. Well, indeed, old man, huh? Should we pray that you die young? Would you like that better? Okay. So we know America's got a snare placed on it by the Lord, and it's not going to get away from it. So how is this going to work? Iran has a miserable economy. Their currency is worthless. It's toilet paper. China, the same thing. Russia, bad, but not as bad. And North Korea, currency is worthless. Lebanon economy is horrible. The Hamas is just a publicly supported welfare hole in the ground. And the Yemen economy is pretty bad, as is the Syrian economy and the Iraqi economy. All these people have horrible economies. So they are suffering from sanctions, the big guys, and they hate it. Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, they hate it. They want to get rid of America. Okay? And how do they do it? Well, the first things they've done, and they've been somewhat successful, is getting America to deploy a lot of its military around the world, leaving it less defended. Now, they also got America and NATO to ship a number of weapons to Ukraine over 2 years to fight Russia. And Ukraine gobbles these weapons up in weeks. So much, if not all, much of the weapons storehouses for the NATO countries in Europe has been depleted. This is what Iran and Russia and China and North Korea, this is what they're looking for. Okay? NATO to run their weapons down. Now, we had a very nasty event yesterday. Russia went and removed border markers from, Lithuania, I believe. And then they withdrew. So they briefly invaded, moved border markers, and then withdrew. Poland is stating that they are thinking about defending Ukraine against missiles by launching missiles from Poland to protect Ukraine. That's serious. Ukraine was given missiles from the UK very recently that are long-range HIMARS type missiles that can go substantially into Russia. How substantially? Possibly 60, 100 miles. The UK then turns around and says to the UK tells Ukraine, you could use these to attack inside Russia. We don't care, it's fine. Putin, I think yesterday, comes up with a public statement that says, if Ukraine fires one of these rockets from the UK into Mother Russia, not into the Russian bases in Ukraine, inside Mother Russia, they will attack the UK. And how will they attack the UK? They said they will attack the Falkland Islands, which is down like around Argentina in the water there. They will attack Gibraltar, and they will attack British interests in Africa. Now, how can Russia do this effectively? Many ways. The simplest way is to use their missile launch capability submarines, send one over to the Falklands, and launch missiles from 40 feet under the earth, under the water. The Falklands have no ability to do anything about it, and start blowing up military and strategic targets in the Falklands. British embassies, consulates, military bases, whatever they want. Gibraltar, they would do the same thing. Gibraltar's close to Europe, it's part of Europe. And in Africa, I'm not sure where there are British bases, but I'm quite certain they could attack them easily. Now, they could use submarines. They could also use destroyers and missile cruisers and just deploy them near there to do launches from offshore. And they could also use their Tupolev long-range bombers and just launch them out of Russia or some other place. Okay? That can work. That's easy. Attacking the UK is a big thing for Russia. Attacking these little places is easy, and it's probably not going to cause a major uprisal of anybody. I do not think NATO would go to war over this. And I don't think the UK would attack Russia over this. I do think they would give more and more missiles and weapons to Ukraine to shoot into Russia to get even. Biden would do a big nothing, of course. That's what Biden's MO is do nothing. You know, carry a big stick and never use it because you're afraid. That's Dirty Joe, as Trump calls him. Things are very, very tense right now. Moving the borderline that Russia did, Belarus loaded up with Russian troops and military equipment's coming in by the train loads. Kaliningrad, which is also near Ukraine, loaded up with Russian troops and military equipment. Russia threatening everybody under the sun. He threatened France, he's threatening the UK. But this threat to the UK is something that I think Putin would be rather quick to carry out. Remember, Putin several weeks ago just won, if you want to use the word won, the Russian election, and is in for another 6 years. And then right after that, he got rid of Shogu, his, guess Shogu's like the head of the Department of Defense. He got rid of him and replaced him. So that could mean a number of things. It could mean he's not satisfied with Shogu's performance because he's getting old and you can't teach an old dog new tricks, as they say. Or Shogu was a restraining force on Putin, and Putin said, I just got elected for another 6 years, I don't need any restraining forces, and just got rid of him. Okay? That's a war drum. That's a sign Putin's getting ready for change. Okay? What China did in Taiwan today is a test. They want to see the Taiwanese latest defense mechanisms, and they want to see what America does. Now, they've been doing this, they must have done this 70, 100 times in the last few months to Taiwan. So one day they're going to do this again, and America's going to sit there and go, oh, I'm going to go back to sleep, right? This is nothing. This is just China flexing their muscles. Forget about it, And it's not going to be forget about it. It's going to be an attack. And I'm going to take a break for a minute, and then we'll discuss how China would attack Taiwan. Now, I was thinking they were not going to attack Taiwan because they were just using it to get American troops drawn out of there. But it looks like they're going to. It's not that hard China are very crafty people. Russians are very good chess players, aren't they? They are. And Biden's good at what? Calling Kamala Harris the president in public? The leaders of the world, the Lord showed me, are like children. Okay? And Biden is not calling the shots. How can he be? Okay? So, we say Biden, but we really mean his administration. Now, they do another, they may already be doing it. I don't know. They just, Taiwan wakes up in the morning, they're surrounded by warships from China, which is normal. Many aircraft start flying around, violating their airspace. So they keep up to date on where the radar is, where their anti-aircraft missiles are, where their ships are, where their soldiers are, by doing reconnaissance, and they see how they're operating. Okay? Then they also see that America doesn't mobilize when they surround Taiwan and fly in their airspace. So by doing this, they have a marked advantage, time-wise, to attack Taiwan. The way the attack would work is not hard to figure out. Their ships would take out the radar of Taiwan, all of it. And their planes would follow after the warships. Warships disable the radar, they make a corridor into Taiwan that the planes could fly on, and then they get rid of the anti-aircraft missiles, the radar, and so forth. Okay, that would take them, depending on how many planes they deploy. If they deploy 75, it could take a day or two. If they deploy 400 or 500 planes, remember, Taiwan is 110 miles from China. They could use 500 planes or more to just annihilate Taiwan in one afternoon. One morning, start at 6 a.m. and finish at 6 p.m. and there's no radar, there's no air bases, there's no active aircraft, comms are down, there's no internet, there's no phones, there's no electricity in the country. There's precious little of anything left in Taiwan but a bunch of scared people. That's it. Then what? Well, China's converted a number of boats to carry troops, lots of ferries and things like that. You're talking 110 miles. You're talking a little over 4 hours, maybe 4.5 to 5 hours to deploy troop transports into Taiwan. At first they would use commandos, which would be in the ships surrounding Taiwan, a few thousand, 3, 4, 5,000. And they would go in and establish one beachhead, then another beachhead, and another beachhead. And then they would bring the troops in with intensive air cover and intensive support by missiles from their ships. And then they just keep feeding it in. They start landing artillery. With missile launchers, and they get support from the ships. And they would bring ships over there with hundreds and hundreds of spare missiles. So when their soldiers get into trouble and start taking fire, they call for an airstrike or a missile strike against the enemy. And they keep advancing. As they advance, they keep feeding more and more troops and more equipment in. So day one would strip Taiwan of their defenses. Day two would be the beginning of troop landings, which would take 3 to 5 days to get substantial numbers in there, like 100,000. These ferry boats are carrying, 1,500 to 2,500 or more soldiers. Let's say 5 hours to go to Taiwan, drop them off, and go back and do it again. They could do 2 runs a day. They got tons of these boats. They got a big navy. You think Biden is going to go out and sink the troop carriers and send tens of thousands of Chinese soldiers down to Davy Jones's locker with cries of genocide and all this thing? He ain't going to do nothing. China's going to ignore his show of force as an empty threat. Within a week to 10 days, within a week, China will have a lot of troops embedded in Taiwan. Probably starting by day 3. Now, how do you get them out? Taiwan can't do it. Japan's going to be scared to death. They're not going to deploy a massive amount of military to run over and help Taiwan, because then they'll be undefended and China will attack the Japanese homeland, their islands and everything else. So that ain't going to happen. South Korea, ditto, they ain't running. Australia doesn't have much to do to work with. They can't be putting up any meaningful resistance at all. What about the 350,000 soldiers that are assembled all over the Pacific? The Philippines, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Guam. You think Biden is going to mobilize them? Remember, no matter whatever way this plays out, every time China surrounds Taiwan with ships and flies aircraft in their airspace, America is not going to, and historically has not, taken this as a serious offense and responded to it as if it's an invasion. So China has an advantage of quite a bit. They can get their ships and their planes into position, into posture, and instead of having an exercise, they have a war and an invasion and an attack. By the time American generals and politicians figure out what they're going to do or not do, it's going to be days. To do it right, the United States would have to have at least 4 or 5 aircraft carriers there and a bunch of submarines, and they'd have to start taking out the Chinese boats. Could America do it? Yes. Would America suffer a lot of damage? Yes. Would China suffer a lot of damage? Yes. Would America walk away the winner? Maybe not, because China is based over there and they have a lot more assets than America does in that area. Will Russian ships help China? Probably. It depends what Russia's up to at the same time. But he has deployed reasonable amounts of warships, like, 8 or 9 at a time, to run into maneuvers with China in the region. He's done that several times, so his Navy is relatively familiar with the Chinese Navy and Air Force and the region. Basically, they're banking on the fact that Biden is not going to go to war. If he was going to go to war, he would not be outgunned. He can't deploy all his troops to Taiwan. They're protecting Guam. They're protecting Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, to maybe a lesser extent Australia. They can't. And a lot of, he has to mobilize his forces. Where are they going to land in Taiwan? How are they getting in? Taiwan's surrounded. Ships are launching missiles. Planes are dropping bombs. What's Biden going to do? He has to knock out their Navy. Take out their aircraft. Can he do it? Well, I think if we sent 5 aircraft carriers over there and maybe 50 or 60 destroyers, missile cruisers, and a dozen submarines, you have a good chance. He doesn't have anywhere near that amount of assets over there. Biden is trying to run some sort of lame, idiotic deterrence against China, which is a joke. They're not going to pay attention to that. They're setting America up. So let's say America says, okay, and launch an additional 3 aircraft carriers over there with 35 or 40 warships with it. So by the time they get to that conclusion and they actually do it, and the ships arrive, you're probably looking at it's 10 days into the invasion. Seriously. These boats have to be loaded up with fuel and weapons and supplies and crews. They have to plan routes. They have to plan strategies. They got to worry about being attacked en route. What if China has 10 or 15 submarines laid in wait for them? They got to watch all this stuff, right? What's Russia up to? If we go help Taiwan, is Russia going to attack? Is Iran going to attack? What's going to happen? It's going to take them 10 days to get anybody there. And when they get there, what are they going to do? There'll be at least 100,000 or 250,000 Chinese soldiers on Taiwan. The Taiwan army will be reduced to fighting like guerrilla fighters. The electric will be out. They'll probably leave the water on. The internet and the phones and any form of communication will be out. They'll close the banks. They'll start issuing new identity cards. They'll switch to the Chinese yuan currency. The food will run out. They'll be dependent on China to get rations, like what you're seeing in Gaza. So if they want to get a meal kit with rats and rice or whatever the Chinese want to give them, which isn't going to be much and it's not going to be very good, they're going to have to go register with the Chinese authorities and get a new identity card, and then they'll have food ration capability. Could they do all this in 10 days? Well, the food's going to run out by 10 days. Remember, nothing's coming in and going out. Taiwan fishermen are not going out in the ocean and bringing fish back. If they have any cattle and chicken ranches and stuff like that, the soldiers from China would have that already. Well, now Biden shows up. What the heck is he going to do? By then, there'll probably be 25, 30 ships surrounding Taiwan at least. At least. That's a big naval battle. He may not win. China's got a lot more resources in the region than he does. If the world was at peace and he didn't have trouble in the Middle East and he didn't have trouble in Europe, he could send a big armada over there and lots of soldiers and lots of airplanes, and they could go to work. But guys, if Biden really planned on defending Taiwan, he would have to put a lot of assets in Taiwan. He did that in South Korea. They have a big base in South Korea. It used to have 28,000 soldiers before all these tensions. It's probably have 40, 50,000 at least, maybe 60 or 70,000. They're serious about South Korea. South Korea has cars. They have the Kia and Hyundai. They have Samsung, LG. They make all kinds of appliances. They make weapons, war toys, everything. He's interested in South Korea. Japan can take care of themselves. They're not so easy to knock off. He cares about Japan. He cares about Taiwan, but what does Taiwan really supply? Computer chips. That's important. But it's not the end of the world. I think Biden will abandon Taiwan. He won't pull his troops out of the area. He'll flock them to protect South Korea and Japan, and to some extent the Philippines, and minimize the damage in Guam, and try to stop China in its tracks, and China gets Taiwan. He gives it up, like Afghanistan. Or like he gave up Israel, basically. That's the expected course of action. So China takes over Taiwan. After 10 days, they're so firmly entrenched. There's no way I could imagine the American military getting the Chinese troops out of there without going into insane levels of military strength with massive casualties. In other words, if they decided to deploy 4 or 5 aircraft carriers, get a force, an invading force of 150, 250,000 soldiers to invade Taiwan covered with 400 or 500 aircraft, yeah, China may back off. Or not. Biden just assembling forces in the Pacific will not stop China. They know better. If Biden actually starts attacking the Chinese military, they'll try to negotiate a ceasefire. They'll tell Biden they want Taiwan and they'll quit with Taiwan, and you withdraw your troops, and we'll tell you that we're not doing nothing to Japan and South Korea. We'll keep North Korea at bay and all this stuff. And will Biden do it? Probably. What does this give China? I'll tell you. It makes NATO realize that America's a piece of garbage. That's what it gives them. Why is that valuable? Because NATO could not handle Russia without the US. NATO, of course, has Germany, France, and the UK in there. But Russia has China and Russia has Iran in there, which can supply Russia with, they could cough up a couple 100,000 troops if they have to. They could cough up massive amounts of missiles and drones and bombs and stuff for Russia. And they could seriously help Russia. As could North Korea troops. North Korea, hands down, would send 100,000 soldiers over there. Hands down, Iran would send 100,000 soldiers over there, and probably China. So perhaps China's going to bait America in the beginning and give America a good scare, and America knows how stupid it is to invade. If America really wanted to protect Taiwan, it would have to put a base in Taiwan with naval and air assets like South Korea, and anti-missiles and positive missiles and everything else. It would have to be a reasonably substantial base of at least 100,000. And that would make the magnitude of the problem to attack Taiwan for China, it would be 4 or 5 times more difficult. And China may not want to take that risk. Because the Americans are going to have good radar, good helicopters, good planes, good boats, good submarines, good bombs, good this, good that. Will NATO help America over Taiwan? I don't think there'll be any of that at all. So America has roughly half of their troops, 1,284,000 combined troops from all the military forces of what America has. And they have about half of those now, maybe a little less, deployed around the world. They got them in Africa, Central South America. They got 350,000 in the Asia Pacific region. There's about 60,000 in the Middle East, conservative numbers, and 60,000 in Europe. And that brings them in, it's a little less than half of their troops are deployed around the world. It could be more than half, because America's not in the habit of giving us updated information on recent troop movements. Out of the 60,000 in Europe, 20,000 have been assigned to NATO, and they're protecting particularly Poland and other countries. They didn't do anything when Russia went and took the borders away from Lithuania. Was it Lithuania or Latvia? I think it was Lithuania. Let me check. Hang on. It's not going to take me very long to find this. Just a minute or two. Putin made an offer to Modi in India to help him with nuclear facilities. He's trying to make sure Modi doesn't operate with America. And Modi will not. The only person Modi cares about is Modi. He doesn't get sucked in by these other countries very easily at all. but he does like money. The fact that America is withholding 3,500 bombs from Israel, the thought occurred to me the reason they're doing that is they're afraid they're going to need these bombs. Possibly for Ukraine or possibly for their own selves. I'm going to go looking for this. I didn't find it yet, but I will find it in a minute. Have no fear. We'll get it. Where did it go? I'm sorry, it's not Lithuania. It was Estonia. I knew I said something. It was Estonia they took the border markers away from. I am sorry, it was Estonia. I had too much information in my head. Okay, it was Estonia, not Lithuania, Estonia. Okay? So that was basically a very fast invasion, and they moved border markers and then took out. So he was testing NATO. Did NATO do anything? No. So the game plan here could be, as one of the many components, is to sever NATO and America. That's China and Russia and Iran's plan. Now, it's not that hard to do. Let's talk about the arrest warrants for Israel from the International Court of Justice in The Hague. They intend to issue arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant, the defense minister. Okay? And 3 Hamas leaders in Gaza. Now, they're not going to issue arrest warrants against the 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever it is Hamas real true leaders that are in Qatar being housed and protected by the Qatarian government. No, they're not going after them. They're going after the ones in Gaza. Those are the throwaway assets. Now, do they really care about arrest warrants? No, because any country they go to is not going to honor those arrest warrants. They might go to Egypt. They might go to Iraq. They might go to Lebanon. They might go to Iran. Where else might they go? Pakistan. You know, they're only going to go to staunch Muslim majority countries who would never honor the arrest warrant. So, who would honor the arrest warrant? Well, one of the top figures in the EU came out with a statement and said yesterday or today, I think it was yesterday, that we have no choice but to honor the arrest warrants if the ICJ issues them. The justices of the ICJ are in the process of deciding if they should issue these arrest warrants. Okay? All right. Now, America is opposed to this because the ICJ, and there's a Muslim guy that's the head of the ICJ that's behind this, And they're afraid the ICJ may issue arrest warrants for American politicians and generals for human rights violations, war crimes, genocide, whatever. So the American Congress, both houses, seem agreed to come up with a law putting sanctions on ICJ members. Now Biden would have to sign it unless he did it by executive order, which he might do. He's pretty adamant. And this is going to heighten tensions in the world. Now, let's talk about what countries already said they were going to respect these warrants. One was Germany, Belgium, France, and there's a couple of others. Hang on. Egypt is saying they're possibly going to withdraw as a mediator for Israel with Hamas. This is a great thing. It'll push the end quicker if they do it. Yafa, stop it. Stop! Germany, Norway, France, Belgium, Slovenia, and a top EU official said they would be forced to abide to arrest these people if they came into their countries if the ICJ issued an arrest warrant. So that was, Norway, well, they've gone anti-Israel. France, well, no surprise there. Germany, Belgium, Slovenia. So the countries that are coming out and stating that they would not honor these arrest warrants so far, other than America, is the Czech Republic and Austria. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, announced that Netanyahu is going to speak in a joint session of the U.S. Congress. He said that he would send an official invitation this week, and that this would happen with or without the support of the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who declined Netanyahu's request to give a speech to the Congress. I could just about imagine what Netanyahu's going to say. It's just going to be a lot of rhetoric. Now, this thing with the ICJ could cause a big rift between America and Europe and America and NATO. And they're trying to accomplish that. They don't want NATO coming to help America when they attack them. They don't want it. So they get Biden to show his colors, how worthless he is. And then they drop him. They drop America. One big time crunch acting on China, Iran, North Korea, and Putin in Russia is the election in November 2024, which prophetically is never going to happen, but they don't know that. Trump is their worst nightmare because he'll turn everything back the way it was when he was president the last time. And they're going to be afraid of him. What's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to get rid of all the Biden people in the government, the head of any government agency, departments, or the 2 or 3 people down that are Bidenites, from Obama or Biden. He's going to get rid of in all the departments. So he's going to get way more better control of NSA, CIA, the Pentagon, Justice Department, Homeland Security, DEA, many things, okay? And he's going to start jockeying the military officers around, and he's going to have his generals and his people in the Department of Defense, Department of State, Security, and all that, and they're going to give him briefings, and he's going to know everything Biden did. And then Trump's going to give serious orders to rebuild the military and try to, work with NATO better, and, he'll try to build the bridges back. And they don't want this. Prophetically, it's never going to happen, but they don't know that, so they're planning on it. So they need to make a move before very long because of the election. Now comes a wild card. I've read this. Could be true, and it may not be true. In Jeremiah 50:51, we read that before the invasion, because it can't happen after, it's silly, before ruler against ruler in America, that's basileia against basileia in the Greek, it means a ruler. So it has to be somebody that controls something fighting against somebody else. So this would indicate a civil war. Okay, now Texas rebelled against Biden, and what did Biden do? Nothing. So this is Biden's modus operandi. If you figure that Biden will not respond with any force, you will probably not be disappointed. So that's why they're pushing this, because they are very certain Biden will do nothing about anything. If Biden really wanted to be good for America, what Biden would do is he never would have opened the borders, okay? He would draw practically every troop or military member from all over the world back to America. Maybe leave, Marines in different embassies and things like that, but draw them back, and 98% of them back to America. Start building up the farmlands for crops and animals for food. Start going offshore and finding his own oil. Put the country back on silver and gold. Stop dedicating himself to stupidity. Are you here? I smell something burning. Get out of my way. Are you here?
I am here.
What's the smoke?
Something was on the burner. The burner got hot.
All right, all right.
Yeah, I can go in. There's no rest.
just burning something on the stove. Everything's full of smoke now. We got one of those stoves after the last kitchen incident that doesn't have a flame, so you can't create a lot of damage. You can just burn the food, and I think that's all she did. Now, what Biden might do is get into a war someplace. Iran, Taiwan, NATO in Europe, and then use the War Powers Act and write an executive order to suspend the elections. That will not suspend Trump's criminal cases, nor would it suspend his civil cases. So Trump would then see the writing on the wall that he's finished, and he would call for a civil war. He's already been hinting like that for months. He says things like, will we make it till January? It's not, can you make it till November? You got to make it till January 20th when they swear in the next president. Then he says, as soon as I take my hand off the Bible, I'm going to get the aliens out of the country and stuff like that. Now that is the biggest edge or positive factor that China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea have. The lowest estimate of military age males that came into the country by crossing the border illegally, whether or not they filed for amnesty and became illegal in the eyes of the federal government or not, is 2 million military age males. Some estimates go up to 7 or 8 million. They will hit the military bases. They had an attempted invasion in one of the American military bases the other day from some person from Jordan or something. And there was another one a couple of days before that, with 2 guys trying to penetrate an American base, posing as tourists or something like that. Now, they don't seriously expect to go onto the American base and accomplish anything substantial. They're what's called probing. They want to see what happens. What are the defense mechanisms? Photograph and film as much as they can. Okay, they can do it live stream on the internet and get the film off to somebody. And once it's live streamed and they received it, you can't take it back. They have it. American military bases are very undefended. They are. They have MPs and military police and Department of Defense police riding around in vehicles, patrolling the perimeter. Maybe they put 6, 8, 9 guys at a gate, and they get 2, 3 gates that are open, checking IDs and manifests on trucks and all this stuff, right? With millions of sleeper agents, they just get thousands of them to go over there. They got guns. How hard is it to get guns in America? They could legally buy them, I understand. They don't need anything. Just get regular semi-automatic assault rifles. That's all they need. They don't need machine guns, but they probably have all that stuff. They probably got rocket grenade launchers. They probably got all kinds of rather sophisticated weapons, because this has been going on for years. And they just buy machine equipment, machine shops. They got plenty of oil revenue from around the world, and they manufacture their own weapons quietly in a farmhouse somewhere. You know, they get a farm with 200, 300, 400 acres, or 3 or 4 or 5,000 acres, whatever. Or they don't even need that. Just buy some land and it has 4 or 5 acres, and they have buildings up, and they make stuff. They take buildings and make a section of the building. Maybe they make stoves or something else in there, or car parts or whatever. And then they have that kind of a hidden room or a basement room or something like that, and they manufacture weapons. It's not difficult to do. They know how to do it. And They buy the raw materials from all over the world, and front companies. It's not hard. So they probably will have assault weapons that go full auto. They'll probably have hand grenades and rocket launchers and shoulder-fired weapons. And they're not going to have aircraft. They're not going to have Navy. They're not going to have any of that. They're not going to come with tanks. They'll come with cars and trucks. But they'll mow the soldiers down very quickly. And they'll try to stop them from getting into the arsenal where the weapons are kept. And the weapons are kept quite securely. They're not going to be able to just kick a door or a window in. American soldiers are normally not carrying weapons around the base. They can't keep personal firearms on the base, typically. Okay? Now, the MPs will have it, and if there happens to be troops conducting training exercises at the range or something like that, out at the ranges, they'll have these weapons. But the ranges are usually at an obscure portion of the base, far away from where the population of the base lives. So they just overrun the base. I mean, you would probably not need more than 2,000 or 3,000 people to do it, at most. And that's probably how they'll come in. Like they did to us October 7th. They take out the guards, they storm the place. That takes care of the armed forces. Then they start locking the other people up inside buildings and patrolling the buildings, and then will be the rapes and the murders and the stealing, all the stuff they love to do, with aggressive, horrible interrogations as to getting information about what they want to grab. And they'll just, all they got to do is hit maybe 10 bases, 12 bases at the same time. It's not a lot of work. They got the manpower. Then they just roll on in. How's America going to bring the troops from overseas, half of their force roughly, back to America? Not very easily. How? How are they going to get them back? Take weeks. They don't have any time for that. But then they'll kill the troops. After they contain them in buildings and stuff like that, they'll probably burn the buildings or blow them up. They'll kill them. Then they'll go around and start looting the country. That's what they're going to do. After they get rid of the military, then it's going to be an invasion. Now, before this, we're supposed to see ruler versus ruler. Well, we haven't seen that yet. Mike Abbott, I think his name is Abbott, I know, the Texas governor, he is not emerging as any sort of a leader except in Texas with border control, and that's about it. And DeSantis in Florida is not emerging as any sort of leader. The only one I see that could really emerge as a leader that has a big vested interest here is Trump. I don't think Biden has any intention of trying to go head to head against Trump to win the presidency. I don't think he could do it. I don't think so. So he might try suspending the election, which would cause a revolution. He may try other things. He may try throwing America into a big war over something that people don't like why are we dying for Taiwan? Or why are we dying for Israel? Or he's not going to fight for Israel. That's the intel trying to line it up with prophecy. But remember what I told you in the past. The Lord told me on or around August 1st, 2023, that we were in the year of recompenses. He didn't say it started today. We were in it. August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, someplace in there, maybe even the 4th, but very close to the 1st of August. But I don't know how long we were in it. And the daughter of Babylon should get it in the year of recompenses, the day of vengeance. It's tied to the year of recompenses, and it's tied to the year of redemption. So apparently that's probably, the day of vengeance is probably the last day where there's an overlap. That day will be in the year of recompenses and in the year of redemption. And that could be the day of Zechariah 12:10, and very likely the day that the daughter of Babylon is invaded. And that should not mean fear and trepidation. It should mean lift up your heads, your redemption draweth nigh. It may happen on that day, the day of vengeance. It may be there because it's in redemption and it's in recompenses, which is payback in a negative sense, you might add. Second, I'm just checking something here for a minute. I'll do this later. So I think we're down to the wire. Remember, the year of recompenses could have started, maybe not August 1st, maybe it was back in June or July. I don't know. He didn't tell me that. So we could be very close to it being over. I can't give you an exact date. Let me see what the chat's telling me, if we got any questions or anything. This doesn't want to come up. What's going on? Oh, there it is. Let's see. Shut this one. So the tensions are tremendously high. The fact that Iran did their first official release saying they didn't detect any foul play in the crash of their president's helicopter makes me very, very suspicious, because initially they were all over it. Yeah, it's too suspicious. It comes out now that the weather was clear, that it wasn't all this horrific storm conditions, okay? So it appears to have been foul play. They're just, when we attacked their cities after they missile attacked us, the Iranians came out with a statement that said, oh, they attacked us with children's toys, we're not going to bother retaliating. See, they got real scared. So yeah, they know we did it with or without the Americans' help, but they're scared to do anything about it because they know that we took out their radar, and we know that all we have to do again is take out more radar and just fly in and start bombing. They can't do much about it, so they're not going to rise up and fight something that they can't win. So it appears to me that what they're trying to do is sever NATO from America, divide and defeat. And Biden will give them all the help they need. Biden has no intentions of helping any ally of America. He has intentions of making the allies of America think that he's going to provide meaningful help, but he's not. Like with Israel. He lies, he leads them on, he shines them on, he doesn't do anything about it. He won't do it. He's just not going to. The Houthis have upped their game. America came out and said they have missiles now where they could attack 2,000 miles, or it could have been kilometers. Probably miles, I think they said, from there. And they keep attacking ships. America's not doing much about anything at all with that. They're just living with it. Nobody else is either. They tried to get America sucked into Yemen, bring the 250,000 troops and planes and boats and everything. It didn't work. They tried to get them sucked in to help Israel and Lebanon. It didn't work. They tried to see if America would even attack Iran after they attacked Israel. It didn't work. They can't get them sucked in much more in Taiwan. They got America deploying 350,000 troops in Asia and the Pacific, and I think that China and Russia, the key players here, feel that's about as many as they're going to get deployed there. And America seems to be reluctant to be deploying very many into Europe. There's about 60,000 all spread out over Europe, and that's about it. They're not getting more in there. And then the Middle East countries, a while ago we came up with Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan had combined 58,000 troops, American troops, and there's to say 60,000. So they're not deploying any more there. They're not bringing any more Navy over to the Middle East. That's it. See, America is not attacking other countries for what they do anymore with Biden. But it still doesn't bring great peace to these other countries like China and Russia, because if they take advantage of the situation and push America too far, it's likely to come out fighting. And if America does come out fighting, it can be very devastating to them. They got B-1 and B-2 stealth bombers, F-22 Raptors are stealthy, better than the F-35, and tons of F-35s. They got smart missiles, all kinds of bombs, all kinds of Navy, all kinds of submarines in the Navy. Very dangerous for them. And China knows it, and they're watching things very, very, very carefully. But there's a time restraint. They know about this election, and they know Trump is a jeopardy to them. And they're well aware of the fact that there could be a civil war in America with Trump at the charge, and you could have Trump in the White House before November. It could happen if you had a civil war. We don't read anything about that in prophecy, so I seriously doubt it. But ruler against ruler. It could be a cry. Those states that want to protect themselves and get the illegals out, we got to stand united against Biden. and close our borders and send the illegals into Biden states. You know, it could look like that, you know, blame everything on the illegals and Biden and all kinds of stuff. But they don't have a lot of time left, so it's going to happen pretty fast. Russia could attack a NATO country, and China could attack Taiwan. They could do it simultaneously, and thus put even more pressure on Biden to do nothing. Biden ain't going to make it with this do nothing policy. And remember, Obama is like a child. He doesn't have a good mind. He's deceitful, lying, cheating, you know, knows the ways of evil, but that's about it. The beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. He has no wisdom. He doesn't fear the Lord. So if he's doing inputting to the crew of Biden, you know, counseling, consulting, whatever you want to call it, he's not bringing anything good to the table. He's just bringing evil and wickedness, you know. That'll be defeated. So this is what's going on. It looks like it's coming close. So I think the next thing China's going to want to figure out is if we actually do attack Taiwan, will America deploy, you know, a lot more troops? Nah, I don't know. We got to watch this thing play out. Chances are, if they invade Taiwan, Biden will start with a diplomatic campaign with China. And he'll go through the UN Security Council and he'll get nowhere because the Russia and China will veto it. And basically they'll get away with it. That's how I seriously see this thing unfolding. I don't see it going, you know, if Biden was going to counterattack, every time China surrounded them with ships and planes, they would mobilize, and they don't. So what are they doing? Looking at the Chinese homeland with recon planes and saying, oh, they don't have troops ready to go, forget about it. So all China has to do is wait a day. No, don't mobilize the troops. Attack with the ships and the planes for a day to take out the radar, and then you launch the boats with the soldiers. What did Obama ever do that was good? Nothing. Was he any good at foreign affairs? No. Was he good at pleading with the liberals and telling them he could give them a life where they are free to do whatever they want, irrespective of the Bible and morals and public standards? Yeah. The bathroom, genderless, and, you know, all of this stuff. And, you know, that's what he was good at, and he got their attention, and they liked him for that. Well, he was appealing to, you know, a certain population, but he didn't do much for the economy. He didn't do much worldwide. He wasn't very effective at all. He came up with Obamacare, which was basically a horrible healthcare system, simply awful. Okay, just simply awful. And it's still there. Trump never got rid of it. Remember, everybody was talking about Big Mike. And Oh man, you know, he was just very, very ineffective. Now we might see Iran rise up somehow in this too to draw troops out of America. This could happen to the Persian Gulf. I don't think Biden will take the bait, but they may try it. So Iran starts interdicting ships around the Persian Gulf or Sea of Oman and trying to get America to send some uh, battleship groups or not battleship, the aircraft carrier groups to the Persian Gulf to suppress them. Remember, America keeps a certain amount of aircraft carriers deployed in the West Coast, the East Coast, Gulf of Mexico. They try to keep one up by Alaska, and they try to keep something in Hawaii. They usually have quite a few naval vessels in Hawaii. Hawaii is rather well defended. And sometimes they keep Navy assets and aircraft assets in the Europe countries as well. Trying to think, what did I miss here? So we know it's going to happen. We got a good idea about August 1st, thereabouts. And here we are towards the end of May. So you got basically June and July if the year of recompense is started on August 1st, 2023. But if it started in, let's say, late June, you got 5 or 6 weeks. And things are going very fast. Netanyahu sees Iran backing down, but the fights from Lebanon, Hamas, and the Houthis, and in Iraq and Syria, the militias there backed by Iran is still going on. So Netanyahu's probably figuring he's going to take another punch at Iran because they're afraid to fight back. That's the Middle East mentality, and I'm very sorry to say the Israeli government follows that idiot mentality as well as the Muslim terrorist organizations. If you hear that bell going off, it's a red alert on my phone. Lebanon undoubtedly is launching missiles into Israel by the border. We're told by the Muslims, I don't know how true it is, that about 80% of the houses built on the border with Lebanon, Kiryat Shmona, Metula, and other places, the houses are damaged or destroyed. They just extended the money to keep these people that abandoned Lebanon, you know, they were evacuated for their safety into hotels, many of whom went down to Eilat because it's good weather in the winter months, but I don't know if they're going to move out of those hotels. I doubt it. It's a little bit more uncomfortable from the heat in Eilat, but it's not that much different from much of Israel. So they've got the money authorized to stay there until December, so you can get an idea of how long Israel wants to wait to attack Lebanon. Netanyahu doesn't want to attack Lebanon. But Lebanon keeps increasing the pressure by more and more rockets. Every week they up it. I think one day we had 100. So what is going to happen, I think, is Netanyahu's going to think of another targeted assassination against Iranian hotshots. So I don't know what, he's waiting too long with Lebanon and it's getting ugly. It could have something to do with the 3,500 bombs that are withheld by Biden. this is a possibility that it could have something to do with that. I don't know. Biden may be withholding those bombs to use them elsewhere. We don't know. And that might be why Netanyahu's not screaming bloody murder as much as he normally would. So the latest thing I was shown was NATO and America. There's going to be a severing of the ties. And we don't see any countries in Jeremiah 50:51 or Isaiah 47 or Isaiah 13 and 14, which discuss the daughter of Babylon destruction as well as other things, like Gog and Magog, the great day of the Lord, and Zechariah 12 and the Exodus and all that. But I don't see any countries coming to help America, let alone a whole bunch of NATO countries. So it doesn't appear that anybody's coming to help America. So which means NATO and America are going to get severed. And this could cause a rift. Japan may drop America too, as well as South Korea. If they don't run over there and help there, so everybody could be finished with America, and they may actually join the enemies attacking America. Think about it. And we also have to incorporate Jeremiah 30 verse 11 in it, where the Lord says he's going to destroy all the nations that he dispersed the Israelites into. And I imagine that means over time. Now, India is one of those countries. You got to put that in your pipe and smoke it. And then Putin's trying to draw India into him. So, if you're Modi, the head of India, is a Hindu. He's pro-Hindu. He doesn't like Mohammedanism, and he doesn't like churchianity. He just, certainly doesn't like the truth. So these are exciting times, and we shouldn't worry. But it's going to get rougher. Okay? This is just as we're getting into the travail, the actual birth. The birth pains are going to be very frequent and very painful. And the birthing process is really painful, but then it's over. So it's going to get hotter and worse now. Okay, because we're at the end. So what should you do? Well, you should pray, because it's very dangerous to not pray. You should read your scriptures every day. That's very dangerous not to do. Even if you just read a page in your Bible. That's 25 times better than reading nothing. Just a page is enough. You're fed. If you get one of those programs that read the scriptures out loud and you listen to it in the house while you're doing other things or in the car, is that going to work? I think so. Just make sure you didn't buy one that's corrupted with witches or something on it, which I don't know who's got a good one and who doesn't have a good one. You could even make your own. How? Read the Bible into some kind of recording device, and then you could play it back at will, couldn't you? Well, you could probably get one commercially. Look for one that's free. That's probably not contaminated, but you never know. You got to be careful what you're doing with that stuff. But that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So it's hearing the word of God or reading it would qualify. So I would say, pray every day and read the word of God every day, and that's going to get you through it pretty much. You need to exercise your faith. It's going to be scary. It'll be scary. Spiritual warfare will make you feel better. Be my guest. Engage in spiritual warfare against whoever or whatever you want. Try to spread the true gospel when you have opportunity, or try to make opportunity. When I was a kid, I used to go to karate school. This is back in the mid-60s, in New York. And I was pretty serious about it and avid about it, They used to work us out so hard. I used to have to take the subway from the Bronx down to Manhattan. I used to get off at 74th Street or 72nd. I think I got off at 72nd. They were on 74th. And I had to take the subway, which, if I caught the train, it was 20 minutes. If I didn't, it was 30 minutes, because there was no rush hour. It was pretty fast. And the trains were safe back then. They were quite safe. So I'd get on and I'd go there and I'd work out. And the workout sometimes was so hard. When I came back, they had, I think, 3 sets of steps to get up to the subway platform. And I used to go down the steps using 2 hands on one handrail, because my legs were so weak from the workout. And I was an in-shape teenager. And, a lot of the guys wouldn't show up. The older people, wouldn't show up for class for a few weeks, and someone would say, "What happened to you?" And they'd say, "Well, I didn't have time." And then the standard answer from everybody would be, "Well, none of us have time. You got to make time." So really, why do I say that? With the scriptures, reading the scriptures, praying, spiritual warfare, make time. Do it when you wake up in the morning. Lay in the bed for a few extra minutes before you get up and pray and read the word. Or you're not as alert at night before you go to bed, but you could do it before you go to bed. And if you did it both times, you'd probably sleep real good. It doesn't matter where in the scriptures you read. No, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, I wouldn't go into deep Bible prophecies late at night or anything like that. That's where you get into trouble. You make mistakes. But, you could read Bible prophecy. It doesn't matter. All the scriptures edifying. You could read Job. You could read Genesis. Whatever you want to read. But read at least a page in a, 8 by 11 or 6 by 8 Bible. Read something like that. Don't read that much. Read, a good amount. And read it slowly and try to absorb it while you're reading and think about it. And then pray. And then spiritual warfare, and keep your faith up. I know it will. For sure it will. If you pray in the Spirit, pray in the Spirit. That's great too. And you got to stay strong, Try to edify your family. Get them to do the same things. Pray, read the Word, do spiritual warfare. The Lord tells us to watch. So these are the days we're watching. That's what a video like this is watching. There's so many signs coming out now all at the same time. I had no good way of putting it all together. I think I got them all out there, but they were all over the place. There's so many of them, and tomorrow there's going to be more. The continuing whirlwind of the Lord is hitting in America. They got all kinds of storms going on. Mexico got hit. It knocked over a stage and hurt a lot of people from winds. they're saying this is going to be a super bad hurricane season for America. Hurricanes start in the month of May. We're in May. They've had hurricanes. They've had they've had twisters, not really hurricanes. There's all kinds of hacking attempts against America, and quite a few of these attempts are successful. Phone systems go down, electric grids go down, all kinds of stuff happening, and they're successful attacks. You've got the sleeper agents in the border. You got a derelict getting up on the television, calling his vice president president, and they're trying like crazy to promote him to run again, which is insane. I mean, imagine him 2 years from now. What kind of level of senility will they have with him? And as far as I know, Kamala's going to be his vice president again. They're not getting rid of her. Kamala does nothing, just sits in the background, like Biden did with Obama. Now, these are the days you've got to keep yourself strong. Now, you'll get out before the invasion, because when the invasion hits, everybody that's there is going to get killed, and I don't think you'll be there for the invasion. I could be wrong. It says, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind, in Jeremiah 50 or 51. So, could that be the rule of fighting ruler? It could be. But then it says nobody is going to survive the invasion when that happens. So I don't know how you can concur those of you to survive the sword, and someplace else it says not. It also says that the people from other countries, for fear of the sword, will leave and go back to the country they're from. Now that's for fear of the sword, not survive the sword. So could it be that the rule of fighting ruler is going to be that bad? I don't see that in the scriptures. Like, I don't see a big Civil War casualty list and things like that. I think it's mostly going to weaken the country more so than anything else. So will you actually be there while you're being attacked? Well, you're going to get out before the attack is finished. Let's put it this way. The Israelites, all of them, are going to get out for his name's sake. They're going to stop in the wilderness, enter into the bond of the covenant, pass under the rod, or they're going to be wise guys, call on the unclean spirits and steal and adultery and all the other stuff, and they're going to take a dirt nap dead in the wilderness. That's that. And the true believers are going to come to Israel. Now, are they going to have to stop in the wilderness? Well, maybe and maybe not. They may not have to, because they are already in the covenant with Jehovah. So they may come straight to Israel, which makes a lot of sense to me. Where the others are not saved, so they've got to go to the wilderness, and they're going to have to get saved, and then they'll come into Israel if they're obedient. But I can't guarantee it. It's not highly specific, but when I think about it, why would you need to go into the wilderness and enter into pass under the rod and enter into the bond of the covenant? You already would have the eternal life. You would already have passed under the rod, or you wouldn't have the eternal life, and you would have already been in the bond of the covenant, or you wouldn't have had the eternal life. So I don't understand what would be accomplished by sending you into the wilderness, except possibly to be an influence on those that were not saved at the time. I don't know. Okay, I don't think there's any great reason for that to happen. So I think you just go to Israel. My thoughts, I could be wrong. I'll investigate it further. But it's hard to say. Those of us in Israel obviously are not going to leave and go into the wilderness and then come back after a sifting. That doesn't happen. The sifting's already happened, the 2/3. Ezekiel 34 has already happened. So that's not anything that makes any kind of biblical logical sense. When you leave, it says you will not leave in haste. So if you have the eternal life, who's going to mess with you? They'll just let you go. They'll give you silver and gold. It says you'll leave with your silver and gold, and you'll just leave. Walk out, take the stroll. There used to be a dance in the 50s called the stroll, or it was in the 60s actually. The stroll. It was a stupid dance. It was kind of hard to learn. But yeah, you just stroll out, just leisurely walk out. Ships of Tarsus to take you over here with your silver and your gold, probably cruise ships. Probably 10-day trip. I mean, you probably could take a suitcase or a backpack or whatever. I don't know what you're going to take. It's up to you. Your animals will go too, it says. So I guess you'll find out if your cats and dogs and birds get seasick. If you let the dogs and the cats orient towards a window or a balcony, they'll be okay. But I would be pretty careful about a big dog, trying to go over the wall in the balcony and hit the water. But dogs have a pretty good sense of height, and the balconies have glass panels normally, and they'll see they're high up above the water. They're not going to jump. Some dog, on a pier, a foot out of the water, may be a wise guy and say, hey, I'm going to take a dip. That's one thing. But 60 feet up, the dog ain't going to go over. But make sure the dog sees that he's high up, and he doesn't try, doing some stupid jump. I don't know how that would work, because the dogs are going to poop and barf and pee in the boat, I guess. But if you got a balcony, you can keep them out on the balcony, and they'll probably have an area where you could walk the dogs, and they'll just hose it right into the water, I guess. Your cats would probably not want to walk around on the boat. They are the wise guys. They may try to jump up on the rail of the balcony and balance, and that's a very, very bad idea, because their claws don't work on metal. So I would keep cats off the balcony, not leave the balcony door open, because they will do stupid things. So I would keep them inside the cabin very meticulously. Not let them run out in the hall, not let them run on the balcony whatsoever, if you have a balcony room. You'd be better with an inside cabin, or a cabin with a porthole that doesn't open and the cat can't do nothing. Just don't let the cat get out in the hallway. If he does, you could always run him down. But cats are pretty happy staying in a room if they got a cat box and they got their food and water, and they got you, loving on them a few hours a day, and they're sleeping there with them. They're pretty content. They don't have a problem. They may hide under the bed or behind or under furniture or something like that, because it's everything's strange. But it's fine. But don't let them on the balcony. They will go. They will start trying to go to the balcony next door. They could go under or the sides, and then they could start traveling around the boat, and they're not going to understand how to get back. They're going to get lost. Got to watch them like a hawk. Birds, you got to keep them inside. Or if you want to put them on the balcony and you got a good cage for them that doesn't open and they can't get out, you keep them on the balcony in the fresh sea air. They probably like it. I don't know what else. I think that covers it for domestic animals, doesn't it? Birds, cats, dogs. I think that's it. If you got a lot of dogs on a cruise ship and people are walking them around on a leash, and you've got to be careful. You've got to follow the biblical law about animals. You can't let an animal gore a person. You got to put it down if it does that kind of thing. And you can't, if it keeps doing it, and you can't let them, dogs go bite other people. And you can't let dogs bite and try to kill other dogs. So you got to keep them separate. And dogs are going to start playing the game of, well, I'm the top dog of this cruise ship, you know. And I'd keep them on a leash, and I'd keep them several feet away from the other dogs. Now, some of these dogs will be happy to meet another dog, and they'll play real good. But some dogs will be jackasses and not play real good. You know, you could have a pit bull that's a very friendly dog, unlikely to be friendly to other dogs. German Shepherds could become very unfriendly, as can Rottweilers and Labradors and all kinds of dogs that are not necessarily, you know, defense dogs. They could become very aggressive, and you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful. Um, and for dog food, they'll probably just take the leftover buffet food and the scraps that people leave on their plates. You know, they don't finish their food at the buffet or the dining room. They'll scrape that into big garbage cans and divide it up by the dogs. Will the dogs thrive on that? Oh gosh, yes. They'll do great. Won't bother them at all. It's probably 10 times better than dog food. They'll do wonderful with it. They just mix it up, and you need some, you go get a bowl and they fill it up for you. And when you do that once a day, and the dog is done. So that's where the food will come from. That wouldn't be a problem. Water, you have a tap in your cabin. You turn the tap on, you fill up some sort of a bowl, and he's got water. And then you feed him once a day. Probably put him on the balcony so the slop could be washed off the balcony easily, not on the carpet inside. And that's, you know, dogs generally eat one good-sized meal a day, and that's it. And you could go to the buffet and bring cold cuts back for treats or snacks or something like that, you know. Keep the dog's spirits up, you know. Every time you come in the room, you got a piece of salami or bologna or roast beef or something. Get them all excited to see you, you know. And something to look forward to. Oh, what's my mommy or daddy bringing me this time, you know. I wouldn't bring them ice cream or cake or candy or garbage that they don't need. So feeding the dogs would be easy, just the leftover scraps, and the cats too, and the leftover buffet food that's been out all day. It's not really great for the people anymore. It's not going to have any effect on dogs and cats. No problem with them. They're designed to eat carrion, you know, dead animals. So that's been laying around for a while. It won't have any effect, and no negative effect on them. They could eat it. What's the difference between a dead animal laying around in the wilderness or food that's been sitting out on a buffet for 7 or 8 hours and it's shot? They give it to, you know, so that'd work. I don't know if they'll have the dining rooms open or just the buffet. I imagine there'll be a lot of prayer meetings, a lot of praise and worship and dancing and celebrating without the liquor. Maybe people will drink some wine and beer. I don't know. Maybe people will drink a little bit. You know, drinking is okay. Getting drunk is not. But I don't remember the last time I took any alcohol. It's been a long time. It's something that I could definitely live without. I don't need it at all. I don't like the sleepy feeling or the intoxicated feeling. You know, it's just not my thing. I'm a food guy. I could sit there and talk food and, you know, get into food and, oh man, I could do food. And I really enjoy different foods. I love making my tomato juice cocktails without alcohol. I'm so happy I've got it working. I love it. I love it, you know. And I ordered tomato juice from the supermarket the other day and they were out of it. So I got to build another order to get it. There was a lot of food they were out of yesterday. I don't know what's up. Now they had substitutes. So like it wasn't, you couldn't get bread. You couldn't get the right, I ordered 10 grain bread and they didn't have it. I had to get some other kind of healthy bread. So you see, it's not that they're out of stuff. They're out of the stuff you want, but they got, like I wanted a nice mineral water, a brand from, I think it's Italy. They didn't have that. They had another one from France, which was pretty good, so I got that. And then I got some Pellegrino from Italy, which wasn't my first choice, but it's pretty good. So it's not like you can't get anything. You can't get the brands you want, which is a little troubling to me, a little bit. I don't know why. Could be shipping. Now, reminds me, International Criminal Court with the arrest warrants, we covered that, but it's thought that they might, listen hard, they might take a step of imposing sanctions on Israel. That means they will tell their member countries, which the EU is, that they passed the following sanctions that they need to impose against Israel. Whatever these are, I don't know. It could be travel restrictions. Don't go to Israel. Don't let Israelis come to your country. That's a possibility. It could be don't sell stuff to Israel. Don't buy stuff to Israel. Or more likely, put a tax on stuff coming in from Israel, like add 3% or 4 or 5% or something like that. Probably something like that. But it could get worse quickly. And a siege is a surrounding with military and attacking from the surround. Like I've been telling you, the siege is in place. The north, Lebanon, the south, Gaza, right? And we get to a lesser extent, but still there, Iraq and Syria. Iraq does not have a common border with us today, but Syria does, and we can't bring trade in or out of Syria, so we're under siege to some extent from Syria, and they have military near the border. Russia has military near the border, and so forth. So we're kind of sieged in Syria too. And Jordan, well, not that bad. The West Bank, yeah, but if I want to go drive for 30 minutes to the Jordanian border crossing, they'll be giving my Israeli passport. They'll just let me right in. Or they might talk to me for a minute. What's the purpose of your visit? Tourists. Okay, how long do you plan to stay? 3 days. Okay, fine. Go ahead and go right in. That would be about it, I expect, right? They might open a suitcase to see if I got a lot of money in there, which they would probably steal, or I don't know what they would do, maybe not. But anyway, that's what goes on. So it's not fair to say that there's a siege with Jordan, because when we do to bypass the Red Sea, we're working with the UAE and bringing stuff in. It's landing in the UAE and then going through Jordan into Israel. And then there's stuff going in on Haifa and then passing to Jordan into the UAE. So Jordan is not really laying a siege to us at this time. That would be too much of a stretch. The Houthis are laying a siege to us with the Red Sea. No doubt about it. Saudi Arabia doesn't let us in. Egypt, if I wanted to go to Egypt, they just show up and say, hey, I want to go visit, I want to see the Pharaoh tombs or whatever, right? They say, okay, how long are you going to be here? Where are you going to stay? What hotel? Okay, fine, boom, stamp it in. That would be it. Now, relations with Egypt are deteriorating. They're threatening to Israel now that because of all this hoopla with us finding 50 tunnels into Egypt, which is exposing them as supporting Hamas in Gaza. They said, we may stop being your go-between on negotiations with Hamas. They didn't say they would do it. Now, they came up with some cockamamie story that I don't know much about. It could be true. And this is the way the story works. They're putting their troops around Rafah because they're afraid that the Gazan civilians and Hamas or whatever will push through to Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula, which is by Gaza, and stay there. And it would not be long until they started collecting weapons and firing into Israel from the Sinai Peninsula. And then Israel would invade the Sinai Peninsula and occupy it and take it back, because we had it and we gave it back to Egypt. That's not such a bad story. It's a little bit too stupid, too good for some crazed terrorist fanatic group to have cooked that up. It sounds like it could have merit. Could, maybe, you know. Biden is certainly not saying anything like, how could Egypt let all those tunnels in and they build all the weapons and concrete and steel girders and stuff for the tunnels? How could they let all that in? You know, well, Biden knows it was getting in for years. Well, he doesn't think about it. He knows it was going on. Netanyahu addressing Congress is going to be no big deal. The House will listen to him and like him. The Senate majority will be Democrats. They won't. He's not going to be very. It's not very easy to get Biden to give the missiles over. Like I said, Biden might need them. And that's why he's not giving them up. I don't know. Or he wants to stop us from attacking Lebanon by withholding the missiles. So I don't get it. If he is going to invade Yemen, then he probably wants those bombs for use in Yemen because they were all underground. I mean, I'm just giving Biden the benefit of the doubt. I doubt he really needs them. But there's always a chance, maybe, but I don't think so. I think he's punishing Israel. Gantz does not look like he has a great chance of winning in a vote of no confidence over Biden, over Netanyahu right now. So I don't think we're going to see a vote of no confidence anytime soon. That's about it, I guess. So, remember, we do accept offerings. Hint, hint, hint. PayPal is a good one to use. We take Patreon. Some people send Amazon gift cards. You could do that too. That's done by email. So we got good vehicles to accept offerings, and for those of you that do send offerings, thank you very much. You keep it going for those that don't believe in it. All right, so please pray for me and my wife, for our peace. I'm Moshe, she's Rivka. For our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances. Pray for better videos, more insights, better understanding of prophecy. Pray for what you'd like me to talk about. Don't tell me, pray for Jehovah. He tells me what to talk about. So pray to him. See what happens. If you've got questions about something, try it. I know people many, many times have told me they were praying about something or wondering about something, and then the next day I just coincidentally talk about it. I've heard that many, many times. I don't know what's going on. He never says, hey, talk about this because Norman or Gloria wants it. You know, he just leaves me to talk about it. And I don't know why, but I just do it. And then they write me and tell me, and that's cool. So, but you could go directly to him. Why not? You know? So pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. And I send my Shabbat Shalom because it's Shabbat in Israel in a few more hours. What time are we at now? We're at, it's around noon, I think. So, it'll be about 8 hours. Our longest days here are not that long. We're getting up to being light up until almost 8 o'clock. I think 8:15 is about it, like June 6th, the longest day. I think it's a little after 8. Where I remember New York, you get 9:40, 9:45. Not here. You don't get that much. You get, you're lucky if you hit 8:30. Maybe on June 6th you'll hit 8:30. Maybe. That's it. and then the days start getting shorter. But you know, it's nice sitting outside. The problem I do when I sit outside at night, I bring the iPad and hang out with the dogs. I scream at them, no barking, blah blah blah. I don't want to go back in the house. I like to sit out there. But the problem is, if I don't go back in the house, I stay out there too late, then I go to bed too late. Because I like to get up at 5 in the morning. That's my ideal time to get up. Everything's nice and quiet. I get a few hours of work done, you know. So I've been up already about 7 hours. So, you know, that's about all she wrote for me. The Lord doesn't, you know, help me prepare Bible studies after the morning live stream. He feels that's enough, and I'm not at my best after that. Rarely will he have me do a second study, and he'll feed me what I need to do and show it to me. But that's rare. That happens, if I look back, maybe once every 6 months. It's pretty unusual. If it happens, I'm ready and willing, but it doesn't happen much. I do update Telegram during the day and the evening. I usually do it about 5 times a day I update that. So if you want to really get the war information and other stuff, you know, and I do a lot of, you know, my discussions on there too. So just download the app, Telegram Messenger, send me an email. My email address is israelgiving with the number 7. israelgiving, one word with a 7 at gmail.com. And if you want to send a gift certificate from Amazon, just use that email address, israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. That's all you got to do. And they email me the gift certificate, and then I load it into my account. We're always buying stuff from Amazon. So if that's easier for you, you can do that. And PayPal is very easy to use. Most people have no issues with that. And Patreon, which is a monthly thing, so every month they repeat bill you. Some people don't like that because they might not have a lot of money the next month or 3 months later, and I understand that. So people do use it, but not a ton of people. So anyway, so I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and make sure you subscribe so when the eggs start hitting the fan, which they will, you'll get the notices. And please give this a like, a thumbs up like. It takes you 2 seconds and it helps with the algorithm. It was approaching 3 hours today. It's pretty long, but I think it went well. I noticed so much was going on. It was hard to really structure it in a smooth flow because it doesn't lend itself very well to that. But that's what I got, and I'm out. Thanks.